Hey, hope you're well. So I made a set of alcove units for my son recently, and in this one I'll be sharing how I designed them to be easily assembled with just screws and glue. So yeah, back to basics today, just screwing cabinets together rather than using my fancy jointing systems. Not that I have anything against fancy jointing systems, but the simple fact is that if you're making fitted furniture, built-ins, then most of the fixings are going to be hidden, and the ones that would be visible are easier to hide if they're designed that way right from the very start. I've done lots of videos about alcove units before, and I'll put a link to one or two of them down below. But basically, in the Victorian and Edwardian housing stock that we have in the UK, they were built with fireplaces for coal fires. Fires needed a chimney, and the chimney stack goes all the way up through the house, through the roof, and exits in the chimney pots that are still visible in most period houses, even though the fireplaces can't generally be used. Of course, because the chimney breast comes into the room, there's an alcove set back on either side, which is the perfect place to put a low cabinet with shelves above it, which is how we get the alcove unit. They're not difficult to do, and there's a few ways in which you can do them. And as I say, in this one, I'm doing a fairly specific style of cabinet to make sure that the fixings are hidden. Now, my son did the measuring up for these, and as is fairly typical with these things, the alcoves are not equal left and right. The left is less than 800 millimeters wide and the right over a meter wide. So quite a big difference side to side. So it's always worth checking very carefully. Each alcove is made up of several separate components, several parts. I'll take these away slowly so that we can see what they are. And let's lose the walls while we're at it as well. I like to start my cabinets with a plinth. I just find it easier to level up. The plinth is made from 18mm MDF, the same width as the cabinet carcass and the same depth as well. They're very simply constructed. The front and rear pieces are the same width, and obviously the three separator pieces are the cabinet depth minus twice the thickness of the material that you're using. Twice 18mm is 36 in this case. So on top of that, we've got a cabinet. Again, very simple construction. There's a base, two sides, and instead of a top, we've got two stretchers, front and rear, just to keep the sides separated, because these cabinets will have a separate top that overhangs the carcass. The sides won't be seen, so the whole thing can just be screwed together. Nothing terribly complicated about that. There is a simple 6mm MDF back, which can just be pinned on, staples probably, to be honest, and there'll be a shelf in there as well, full width and adjustable on rows of holes. Now, I've deliberately made the carcass 30mm narrower than the alcove, so 15mm on each side. That's probably a little bit more than usual, but I haven't measured it or made a site visit. And with a house of this kind of age, the walls will have been replastered over the years and it would have been generally chopped about. So that 15mm each side gives us just a little bit of wiggle room for the cabinet and the bookcase above it. But you've also got that gap to fill. Now, you can put an infill back here between the wall and the side of the cabinet, but that's only 15mm wide, 5/8 of an inch or thereabouts. That's quite a skinny strip to scribe to, assuming that the chimney breast isn't completely flat, which they almost never are. So what we're doing with this one is a slightly different take on it. We've got doors on this standard shaker style, and what I'm actually going to do with this is put a scribe panel in on each side of the carcass. It's a piece of 18mm and it comes all the way forwards so that it covers over the edge of the doors, so they look a little bit like inset doors, but they're actually overlay. And then you scribe the rear edge to the chimney breast, so you're scribing to the face of the wall rather than trying to scribe to an edge. It's just a little bit easier that way. It does mean that your end panel scribe is a little bit bigger, but that's not really a problem. And what happens at the other side is you just end up with a piece that goes back alongside the cabinet. It doesn't need to be that deep. It's really just to cover up the very front edge where the doors are. Now, if the wall's significantly out on this side, you'll need to scribe a skinny piece in there, but this will also be painted, so caulk is always an option. And then on top of that, we've got a top, and that top is then scribed in to the wall, to the rear, to the chimney breast on the side, and it'll come around the corner and scribe to the front face of the chimney breast. Again, typically you'll have a little overhang, a front lip all the way around, just to make that nice and even. And you can apply a little bit of trim or molding to that if you like. That's quite nice and neat and tidy. So for the bookcase next, the shelves above, again, it's a fairly standard, typical set of simple shelves, two sides, a fixed first shelf that helps prevent the sides from bowing, and then you've got two adjustable shelves above that and the fixed shelf at the top. The sides are in 18 millimeters and all the shelves are in 22 millimeter thick MDF, just to give it a little bit more resistance to bowing. The shelves are set back 20 millimeters from the front edge of the bookcase sides, and then again there's a simple 6 millimeter back that's just planted on and stapled on probably. It doesn't have to be anything special because the edges are never going to be seen. One thing that I do though with the back is that I let it run slightly longer, so it overhangs at the rear base by 10 millimeters, and that just means that when you get the rest of the cabinet in there, it just locates itself securely. So like the cabinet, we've got a gap all around the sides of the bookcase. There's a couple of ways of dealing with that. You can either scribe an infill between the bookcase and the wall. Again, a really skinny scribe to do, and it's over 1.5 meters high, almost 5 feet, so quite hard to do, quite fiddly on site. So what I'm going to do is put a face frame sort of scribe in there, and this one I'll run it flush to the inside of the bookcase face. Another way to do it would have been to have it like a face frame, so it comes within the bookcase carcass. I don't like that personally, just from a usage point of view, because it means that you've got the face frame getting in the way of getting books in and out or whatever else you've got on the shelves. So I prefer to keep it flush to the inside face, and that's what my son and his girlfriend have gone for. And at the top, you've got a similar sort of situation. You've got the top infill face frame flush with the underside of the top shelf, so no overhang down below. I hadn't allowed for it in this one, but when I was doing these for clients, especially if they had young children, what I'd also do is put another infill, like a full false top over this, scribe to the alcove, because small items can get flung up in the air, and if it disappears down the side, again, you've only got 15 mil each side, but you'd be surprised how precisely random things can be thrown that disappear down those sides, and then there's no way to get them out again apart from taking off the scribes, which is not a lot of fun and will not make anybody happy. And of course, we've got something very similar going on the right-hand side, just with different dimensions. Now, none of this is difficult to do, as I said before, but there are a surprising number of individual components in all this. I think I counted up 70 in total, so 35 individual pieces per alcove per side. They're not all totally different shapes and sizes, even though they're different sizes from side to side. Some things are common. They're the same depth front to back. The cabinets are the same height, and the bookcase are the same height. The bookcases are the same height as well. So it's just the width that changes. So yeah, that's the way to design cabinets and shelves that can just be screwed together on site. I made the doors here in the workshop. Let me know down below if you want another door video, but they were pretty much like every other shaker door I've ever made. I bought the materials for this from MDF Direct. There's lots of different material thicknesses in this, so it made perfect sense. And I collected the components for the doors from them, as they're just up the road really, and everything else was delivered to my son's house in Southampton. Super smooth service. Thank you very much from MDF Direct, and I'll definitely be buying from them again. I went down to my son's place on a Friday to help with the install, and we had it wrapped up by Sunday morning. Be sure to join me in the next video when I'll be going through my system for trying not to forget anything, and then there'll be an install itself. Of course, I made many mistakes on the install. It wasn't even funny, but that's for another video. I'll call this one done for today. Thanks so much for taking a look. As always, leave a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Okay, so hilariously, having joked about a 10-minute trip to Scribes taking an hour out of your working day, the skirting board has completely defeated us. It's nailed on and glued on. And I didn't think to bring a bigger wrecking bar, so we're going to run out and grab one of those. Typically, so we're going to go do that now. And then we'll be back and crack on as quickly as we can.